Hello, this is Sharyn Fitzpatrick, the editor of PresentationXpert, and this is Dishing on Presentations with Microsoft PowerPoint MVP, Chantal Bossé. So welcome.
Hi. Thank you, Sharyn.
So I loved hearing about a project you were working on where it seemed to be, Monday is Paris, Tuesday is Istanbul. Can you tell me a little bit about the project and what it was all about?
Yes, actually, it's a project I did with a partner that I do business with on a regular basis, and we were working on an event that was being held in Calgary. It was a tourism event, yearly event that they get people from the trade, sellers from Canada that will have some possibilities as for the tourists, and the buyers from all over the world. And the way they do business is that they targeted 11 markets, so 11 countries, so to speak. And they were to be brought on stage to talk about their markets. That was the pre-event for the trade people, and it was making sure they would learn about what's going on in that country. What do tourists like, don't like? Why do they come to Canada? So it was a Destination Canada Inside Track event. And I ended up building the presentation for the event, and I had to coach 11 speakers.
So is language an issue then when you have to coach 11 speakers?
Well, it was not, because the main language for tourism is really English.
Yeah.
So we were just discussing having our Skype call in English, and they were perfectly fine. Sometimes maybe their spoken English wasn't as perfect, but we were able to understand each other more than enough that was required, and we really had some fun.
So were the presentations exactly the same for each language, or did you need to, for each speaker, did you have to adjust it based on their culture and their country?
Well, I was privileged enough to have a project manager at Destination Canada that was overgoing the content, and the VP also went through the content. She asked the reps, she asked the reps to fill out a kind of template of what are the specific informations that people should be aware of for your market, so they know when they'll meet the buyers from your country, what do the buyers expect, and what types of things that should be discussed. So we had it wasn't a specific template, but yeah, they were asked some specific information about their market, which made it also easier on them to discuss when they would be on stage. And for me, the call was basically making sure they understood how the visuals were built and making sure that they wouldn't have a heart attack because it wasn't filled with text.
Oh, I can't imagine putting a slide with 2-point text up there.
That's right. Some of them were quite surprised because, yes, I don't work with a lot of text, especially not in such a big venue with that type of event. You want to have it very quick to grasp on the screen. And we really had to do that overview of the visuals. Did they understand it, and how the way they present, because they also had to be brought to speed to the fact that they were on a circular center stage, which is quite different.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about that. How do you present on a circular stage?
Well, you have to be aware that you'll have people all over you, for sure. And that's something for the speakers. You have to be aware of, and it's quite, it's something for the speakers. You get unsettled a little bit because you have people in front of you and you're perfectly aware that you have people behind you.
Oh, wow.
But at the same time, they had some camera to make sure they would have a front view for every people in the venue, in the audience. But you have to make them understand that to be very interesting, technically, you should go to one side, do a little bit, and then you slowly go to another side, and as if you had a square. And as a matter of fact, we called it a centered round, but it was really a square stage. So for them, I made sure to tell them, you need to go on one side, and then slowly you will just walk to the second side, and so on. Some of them made it, some others not as much, but with the little time we had, they did the best they could, and it was still quite interesting. People had some good results.
So it sounds like the whole objective of this was to create a buzz and to make a memorable presentation so people got excited about the content.
They had to, and they also had to remember information, because after that event, that afternoon event, they had 3 days of about, let's call them speed dating meetings. They were meeting back-to-back buyers from all the countries that were present, and they usually had 10 to 15 minutes meetings. So that means, okay, I'm meeting someone from South Korea. What do I need to remember from South Korea? What do people like there? And make sure that they remembered the highlights that would help them sell some packages and trips and stuff like that that would bring people to Canada. And it was the same for the 11 countries. That's why we had to make sure it was memorable in terms of not being boring, first of all, but second of all, making sure they would remember some of the highlights and big data that would really help them sell.
So looking now back at it, did they accomplish what they hoped to accomplish with this?
They did. They did. And I think from the first small feedback I got, it seemed to be more positive than the event they had last year. The format was changed. The team that I worked with for this event, we changed the format. We made sure that more people with relevant information were on stage. But that also gave me a lot of work because, as with many projects, I was the last one to get all the information, and I had to do all the project in about 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. I was quite tired at the end, especially having to do those back-to-back coaching sessions at wee hours of the day sometimes.
Yes. Don't you love time zones?
Oh, yeah. Well, and you have to accommodate, because being a little at the last minute, people were starting to travel to get to Calgary.
Right.
Which meant that, okay, well, I'll try to accommodate the best I can, but, you know, I'm not working between midnight and 5 a.m. because I'm sleeping.
Exactly. So what kind of images did you use? Did you use images that were more about what Canada's about as a tourist destination, like scenery or landmarks? What did you use?
Well, we did have scenery, but the people in the audience, being the sellers themselves,
right,
needing to grasp highlights of all the countries, we knew that it was all about people. You need to make sure they realize you have people from all over the world coming in, so you're not focusing on the landmark per se, but yeah, all the faces and the people that come in. And I was very, very lucky that Destination Canada has a photo library of, I think it was over 7,000 pictures.
Wow.
That was the designer's dream come true. I didn't have to fumble through a lot of slide libraries. I was using their own. But it's still a big challenge, because if it was presenting to people from outside Canada, then landmarks and sceneries and stuff like that would be okay. But right now I was making sure people would grasp all those cultural differences. If you have people from Asia coming in, well, you need to have some Asian faces.
Right.
And people from South America and some people from Europe and all the places. And it made it quite fun, as a matter of fact, to search the database that they allowed me to use. Although at the same time, you keep pestering about not having the right keywords for all the photos, but that's still okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Made it okay, and they had some beautiful photos in there.
Yeah, keywords for photos, speaking of that, is really important because I was married to, my late husband was a lexicologist, so he was an expert in the indexing and abstracting of data. And so when I started creating libraries of pictures, he taught me how to tag everything the right way. And so I can go search and know angry man, angry girl, or angry Caucasian, angry Latina. It just really is, it really helps a lot in having it tagged. It saves time. And time is so precious these days. So, yeah, I hear you. What would we do without our photos?
Yeah, especially knowing what the presentation world is right now, and we want to move people away from walls of text. Well, you need pictures, you need graphs, and you need charts and stuff like that, depending on what you're presenting and where. So yeah, it's a different way to present than what's been done for so many years sometimes.
Well, I also think too, it's the whole trend now is about storytelling. And if you put a picture up there with 25 lines of 2-point text, that's not telling a story. What you want to do is be able to have the picture come alive to tell the story you want them to hear. So using a picture in that case is really terrific from that perspective.
It is. And I made them realize also, I made the speakers realize that having so few words would give them the leisure to put their own words at what they were. You have something and then you can express yourself the way you want it. And if it's not exactly the same words that when you prepared and practiced, who cares? Because you have visuals that are just matching and putting emotions to the words that you're saying.
So when I do a script for webinars or for presentations, I will tell them this is just a game plan. It's not word for word. You need to sit down, look at it, and figure out how you're comfortable saying this in your own words, because you want to come across as credible and genuine.
Yes.
And I think that's the real challenge is I think people get so tied up with, oh my God, I have to present and I have to say these exact words. I'm like, no, if you're not comfortable saying one word, but you feel you could express it different, rewrite it. As long as the message is the same, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. And it's funny because I had another call this morning, and the lady, she's from Reunion Island.
Okay.
And that's east, like Middle East of Africa. And it's a French island. And I told her, she said, oh, geez, I just realized what you did with my visuals, and I have so much less text. And I made her realize you're an expert. So don't worry about having some words there. Just have confidence in yourself and let yourself use the right words for the audience you'll have when you do a presentation. And if you think, oh, geez, I forgot a word, it's really not that bad. I usually have a saying that if you forgot about it, it's because that group just did not need it. And you might say something else that was more valuable to them than what you had in mind or scripted before. And that's also a way to deliver value. If you try to, what we call read the room, making sure you grasp their energy and you try to read their facial expression, then you might just change what you planned on saying because you have the feeling, ooh, I'm not getting through. I'll need to change this, or I'll need to reword or have another angle, or someone will have a question and you'll need to change a little bit what you were saying. So fewer words allows you to still have a relevant visual, whatever you have to say.
That's a good point. There are sometimes you may have to do 3 or 4 times of presentation in the same day, and you may find that you learned something in the first presentation that you could take the second presentation,
Yes.
and then by the end of the day, you've really made it your own. And so that's really words of wisdom on a Friday morning. And
It is. And geez, just thinking, it was a hell of a project, because in terms of hours to put in, that was really draining. But the human experiences I had talking to those 11 speakers from all over the world in about 3 days, that was really worth it. It's something that goes way beyond the money that you get paid for a project, because that's very valuable.
Yeah, I mean, there's some projects I'm sure we all do where we love the experience and what we gain from it as much as the money.
That's it.
Yes, but there are some that are more a labor of love, and it sounds like this one was a labor of love.
Well, it was all the right things at the right time, and really terrific people to work with, getting to learn about their cultures too, because that was one thing. Even though I did put a certain visual, one fantastic thing for me, I was discussing with the rep from South Korea, and she said, well, if it's okay with you, I would send you some more pictures, because the people you have right now are not South Koreans. And I told her, you know what, that's terrific that you tell me that, because
Right.
I wouldn't know. And she started to laugh and said, well, I can figure that you guys probably cannot make the difference, but us, we can. So I had to change the pictures, because, yeah, I probably had some Japanese and Chinese people mixed all in there without really knowing it.
Right.
But for them, it was really, really something that they grasped at the first glance.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's important, whatever we do for the audience, you want them to ask what's in it for me, and seeing somebody who looks like them. And so I'm sure the first step you would have to, especially culturally. So I would
Yes.
imagine that's really important. That's good advice. I didn't really look at the differences. I'm not sure I would know either. So,
Well, I'm just starting to grasp them a little bit because of all the pictures I had to take a look at. But you know what? Don't ask me to tell you the difference, because I'm sure I'll probably goof up.
don't worry, I won't. Well, this has been fabulous. Thanks so much, Chantal. I really appreciate it. I'm so looking forward to seeing you and Pat at the summit in September.
Oh, it will be great to see you again.
Yes, and thank you so much for doing this.
And thank you for asking.
This is Sharyn Fitzpatrick, and this is Dishing on Presentations.